morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to 1% Better, where we take a look at hidden stories in sport. I'm Xylon, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. David Lipman. Your medical question today is, what happens when intensity rises above the lactate threshold and mitochondria can't keep up with energy demand?
I don't want to get into this question, mate. The question's got problems in itself. It's going to say
You
that
get
lactate
you get
increase.
glycolytic spillover. Is that it?
Sure, let's go with that. I mean, so it's talking. Yeah, let's not. Let's not get into it. There's a lot of technicality here. We've got an episode planned that's coming up on lactate in the new year with an expert, and we can talk about these sort of things there. So let's leave this one.
Oh, you're leaving listeners hanging, man. They want a little bit something. Okay, I'll tell you what I have here. It says you get glycolytic spillover. The body relies more on anaerobic metabolism, producing more ions. Is that it? And lactate. Is it H plus ions?
Yeah, so hydrogen ions. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I guess so. It's a little bit more technical. That is what the textbooks would say to an undergraduate. They would say something like that. Yes, that is a correct
Okay.
answer. It's a little bit
I'm
more
gonna
technical
make
than
it.
that.
I'm gonna make it even
So
more simple. A fun line here is: at the moment your muscles say, "We're doing this the fast way, not the clean way."
it's not a bad way to think about the difference between glycolytic versus oxidative metabolism. It's not a bad way to think about it that way. I wouldn't say clean, but maybe efficient in some ways, in some senses. But yeah, it's a little bit more complicated than that. But in essence, um, because the oxygen demand can't meet the requirements, you then start to using, instead of pyruvate going in and doing its thing, it becomes lactate, and then that gets shuttled around, and yeah, it gets messy and technical. And it's bad radio is the real point here. So
Okay.
yes, it's not
Well,
good for
we'll look
radio.
forward
You need
to.
diagrams.
We'll look forward to doing a whole episode on this. Then that you just look forward to.
You're welcome. No,
I'm
it'll be good.
joking.
Those will be good. They are upcoming. Got episodes on lactate planned for the new year. Got a few other episodes coming up. Started recording them and banking them already. For listeners who are listening here, they will know that you are going to get your spinal fusion. We've sort of hinted at some of the changes that are coming. We have confirmed now. Podcast will continue. It will be audio only from probably the second week in January, and then yeah, from there it will be audio only until you return, basically. Which speaks to how much work you do on the video editing side of things. So thank you for that, mate. And just a quick one to wish you luck for your surgery publicly, because our next following few episodes are banked already. So yeah, wanted to make that public.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Another thing I appreciate is the support of Precision Fuel and Hydration. They've supported this podcast from the very beginning. Did you follow a bit of the T100 series? One of their athletes, whenever I'm watching these races, I tend to see athletes branded with Precision Fuel and Hydration. I don't know if that speaks to their hitting the bullseye with their sports marketing, but Yell again seemed to have gone well in the T100 finals.
You're better than mate. Yellow Chains. But anyway, it's yes, he got third overall, which is huge. It's a big year for him because he also did really well at 70.3 World Champs. Obviously, won that. So yeah, he got third overall the T100 series. I did watch this race. I missed the end of the men's, and missed the end of the women's and saw the men's. Men's wasn't much of a race, if I'm honest. Hayden Wild ran away with it. Women's, you sent me a message about what had happened to Paula Findlay. I assume she DNF'd on the run. I still haven't found out what happened. But another precision athlete that did really well was actually Ellie Salthouse, the Australian. So it was probably her best performance of her career. She did really well. She got top 10, I believe, which was huge in the final there. I'm not sure where she finished in the series, but that was a really big win for her, or a big performance for her.
But if you want to be like those amazing athletes and use Precision Fuel and Hydration, good news for you. We've got a 15% discount code on your first purchase. That code is 1, the number 1, PB2025. We also have a direct link in the show notes below. How are you doing? This is our last recording for the year. As you said, the rest of the episodes going out for the next few weeks. We've already recorded them. They're already banked because mostly to you. You're like was about to say like a production Nazi, but I don't know if that's an endearing term or not, but incredibly efficient when it comes to planning and procedures. And so thanks to you, we are so organized on this podcast. But yeah, this is
I,
going
I
into
was
Christmas.
I was going to say, mate, I was waiting for you to say something else, and I was like, mate, it's not me that's forcing us to pre-record these. You're the one who's gone away, so don't you start with me. But no, I do think, yeah, I have to plan around you, which is good. We work well. That's part of what a good teamwork is you, uh, you force my hand a little bit to have some time off, which I think is a good thing for me. I would otherwise not do that. And as a result, I force your hand to do a bit of work, which you would otherwise not do. And so anyway, we keep delivering. The goal is to keep delivering value to people over the
Love it.
holidays. As we've hinted at, we do have an AI in sport episode, an episode on HRV with Marco Altini, a long-awaited guest, and an episode with Mario Fraoli, which I think people are going to love on sort of the running boom and all that sort of stuff. So 3 bangers coming up, and then you'll hear me again in the new year, recording live with some guests. So I've teed up the first of those guests, and again, another great one coming. So things are rolling on. So please do, if you haven't subscribed so you don't miss those. Of course, rating the podcast helps, sharing the podcast helps. We've been growing quite a bit recently thanks to some guests. And we'd love to keep growing, and that helps us get more guests. So thank you to all those who are sharing and doing that. But yeah, mate, that's the story. What's been happening with you, mate? You've been exercising, because last we spoke, you were going to go ride your bike. How'd you go?
I did ride my bike once since the last episode, just for about 35 minutes or so, literally to the coffee shop and back. Once I got off the bike, I could tell it wasn't the best for my back, but I've actually been in the least amount of pain I've been in all year, I'd say. And that's because I've been doing nothing, because I've been traveling so much for work. I haven't really done a lot of exercise, and it seems to have given the nerve time to settle down and recover a bit. So I reckon I'm going to do that right up until the operation, which is exactly about a month away. And the one thing I'm focused on, I'm not happy with my BMI. I've got a bit of belly fat, been a bit going crazy the last few weeks with traveling, and always I find it a challenge eating healthily on the road. So that's what I'm focusing on now, is losing that bit of fat, because in my mind belly fat will help the vertebra, isn't it? Like if I'm standing up, it's less weight to carry. Is that accurate? And that would in turn help the nerve or help me recover from the operation?
Well, so there's like, again, this gets a little bit technical, but if you think about what's happening in your back, you've got a spondylolisthesis. So basically the vertebrae are not stacked on top of each other, and the belly fat can shift your center of mass, not unlike pregnancy to some degree, and therefore change the loads on your spine. Right, it's nowhere near the same thing as pregnancy and all those things, but it can certainly
I
change
don't
your
know. You haven't
posture.
seen me. You haven't seen how big it is. And I'm joking.
You get to say that, mate. Don't at me about the pregnancy stuff, women. Like, ladies, go for Xylon, not me. But yeah, so it can change the forces on your spine. So I certainly think there's potential there, but the reality is there's no value in the belly fat. But like, there's no reason not to try and lose it. It's like maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't help, but there's no real reason to not try and lose it. So yeah, it's worth always thinking about, like, what are the costs of doing this? Oh, nothing. Okay, well then, if it's a benefit, fine. But if there's no cost to it, then yeah, carry on.
It it is the worst time to try to do that. It's summertime in the southern hemisphere. Everyone's on holiday. There's dinners, there's lunches all the time. Going on holiday on safari this week, so the worst time to do it. But I've actually find myself being very, very disciplined. But enough about me. I wanted to ask you. I saw you recently ran a 15K, and you were feeling yourself. Actually, I didn't see it. You put it in my face because you were so happy with it. Tell me how that went.
Well, you were giving me heaps about like not running outside, right? You were giving me heaps in a private DM message about how I don't run outside, and another mate of mine was giving me heaps about like not running outside as well. So I was like, all right, I'll go run outside, see how I go here. And it was a beautiful day here, and I got rolling, and then I ended up running 15Ks, like averaging like 420 something per kilometer, which is like, I don't know, it's somewhere like high sixes, maybe low sevens per mile. Um, and so it was like flew along, did that. It was just over 15K, so almost 10 miles in, I don't know what that was. I have no idea how long it took me, but it was probably just over an hour. And so like I was flying along, and heart rate was low, and all this heat training's obviously worked because it was like not a particularly warm day, and I was wearing very little outside. So it was like, I felt great about it. My Achilles is now cooked though. So it's been somewhat humbling and somewhat frustrating. So I'm gonna what it has done is it's highlighted to me some of my motivation issues, because I was so deflated and I've been so demotivated since then for running that I was like, oh, a lot of this is about the Achilles. So yeah, I'm gonna go seek some care from somebody, and we'll see what happens there. But this brings us. We will get to a shout out later that I'll address. That sort of relates to this. So bear this in mind when we get to our community shout outs later, everybody. But that's the story, mate. Other than that, I've been going well in the gym, and yeah, happy.
Good to hear, man. I presume you were wearing Stride for that run, as always. We
Yeah,
are
yeah, yeah.
supported by Stride running power meters on this podcast. You and I were discussing this. We highlighted Valencia Marathon in the last episode, but we subsequently actually saw a post about someone setting a national record while using Stride in Valencia Marathon.
Yeah, well, we talked about Julia Mayer breaking the Austrian record for getting 14th. She ran 2:26.09, and she was using the Stride Duo as well. So she was using both of them. So I'd love to see that data from her and see what she thought about it and see her decay across that. Um, yeah, I haven't spent the time actually on my 15K yet. I should have done that, but I'm yet to do so. But yeah, I do love that data to look at the kinematic changes over time, to look at the changes in stiffness, all that stuff. So my stiffness trend has been up, right? So leg spring stiffness, which means generally you're becoming more efficient, which has been good for me over the last 3 months. So yeah, it's that's good to see.
I missed the what she said joke there when you said my stiffness trend has been up. But if you'd like to check out Stride running power meters, we do have a unique link in the show notes down below. So please check that out. That really helps us out. By the way, I'm excited for this episode. This is our 2025 review and our 2026 wrapped episode. We're basically going to look at the predictions we made for the past year, see how wrong we were, and make predictions for next year. So please stick around. But before we get there, let's have a look at some community shout outs. The first one being Emmanuel Katsanis, who ran the Tucson Half Marathon. He won his age group, went 135 there, and you feel like he nailed the pacing.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what this was, but I had a look at his 5K splits and they were very good. So he absolutely nailed this. So Emmanuel's a very diligent stride user actually, and he's big in the Strava group as well. So I was stoked to see this. Really happy for him. I remember we wrote something. Something came up before, and his daughter responded as well, or commented on Strava. So I dig it. So it's good to see. And then a shout out to Jonathan Coates, who did the Telford 10K, which is a big race over here in the UK, and he ran 30:09. So that's flying. That is absolutely flying. That is 3:01 per kilometer, just under. So yeah, congratulations there. And then we saw Christian Trumpeter. So he had a DNF at Malaga Marathon. So he'd been training up for this, been doing huge weeks, 200 kilometers, and so. And yeah, he had stomach cramps. So I saw that DNF, the poor guy. But he did go out and run the next day to finish off the part of the course he hadn't done. So I thought that was kind of cool of him to do that. So yeah, that's our thoughts are with you, Christian. It's always like average to DNF a marathon. It doesn't feel good, but yeah, at least the legs were good.
And then a shout out to a previous guest on this podcast, Michael Nitschke. He went second in the pre-Bay Mile. I think Michael was on this podcast. He's a podiatrist. He was on here talking about how to choose your running shoes probably about a year ago or so. So if you've missed that out, that was very interesting. And people still one of our biggest episodes. So go and check that out. We did get a comment on Spotify. I suspect this is a mate of mine, AB Abelang, who's a long-time listener for the podcast. I was fascinated by his username on Spotify. It is DJ AB at work. AB is an anesthetist, so this is a very funny name for him. But he said, "Hey, Zai and Dave, AB from PE here. A great episode. Just recently had a triathlon series in our town cancelled due to low entry numbers. You mentioned a sparse field at Bahrain, but an increase in Hyrox numbers. Do you think Hyrox is taking up more potential triathletes as a multi-sport?" Oh, that's a good question, actually. Do you have thoughts on that?
So I didn't realize Avalon was an anesthetist. So the anesthetists generally are the DJs at when they're during surgery. Generally, the
Oh,
anesthetist
really?
controls. Yeah, so that makes some sense. Or at least
So it
in the
makes
theaters I've been in,
sense.
it makes more sense. Then is that often. I mean, depends on the surgeon and how nasty they're being, but yeah, often it's the anesthetist who get to choose the music or get to play DJ. So that makes a lot more sense. That's cool. I didn't realize that. That's funny. I do think this is happening, and so I don't think it's happening in Bahrain, right? I think the Bahrain stuff, like I think we'll get on to the UAE and the Middle East and sport later, or at least I will. Spoiler alert for some of my thoughts here on the 2026 stuff. But certainly, if you look at the numbers for Hyrox, and I've been doing this the last couple of days, I'm writing an article about it for my newsletter. But the numbers have
That
been
was the
huge.
sound effect every time he mentioned his newsletter.
Yes. So there's been something like a tripling in numbers over the last 2 years, last two seasons. They do a funny season where they go like 25-26 or 24-25. But like the 24-25 season is triple the numbers from 2 years prior. And then we talked about 1.3 million last week they're anticipating. And that's a 25-26 season, which is roughly almost tripling again. Right. So they got over 80 events in the year. It's crazy. So this thing's really exploding. They're obviously under the World Triathlon banner. We talked about that already. So they've fallen in under the World Triathlon banner as part of the fitness racing. And then if you look at the Elite 15, which is their top 15 competitors, basically the top 15 in their sport, which is a little bit fluid, but there's many people who've come from a triathlon background there, which again would make sense. So just based on that and a few other things, it would make sense that this is cannibalizing some of the event market. Maybe not the die-hard triathletes, but people who are doing a triathlon for fun or just want a fitness challenge. It's 2026 is coming. Yeah, new year, new me. I'm going to do a triathlon. Well, now maybe that's a Hyrox, right? And there's certainly a much lower barrier to entry for Hyrox than there is a triathlon. You can go to your local gym. They've got all the equipment you need. You can do it. It's pretty straightforward. You don't need a bike. You don't need a bike. You don't need to go swim time. You don't need lanes. You don't need any of that stuff. So, in some ways, it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier. So it doesn't surprise me that this would be happening. So I do think some of that's cannibalizing it. What do you think, mate?
It's fitting that you say that because I actually saw a professional triathlete, Emma Palin Brown, just doing a Hyrox now. Now, she's just had a baby, so she hasn't been racing much this year. But like you say, obviously, Hyrox isn't as high maintenance as a sport with three disciplines. So having a new baby at home, this is something she could fit in with. I don't have access to real research, but if I just think about at home here and friends who are doing Hyrox, loads of them have done triathlons, loads of them have done Ironmans. I think it absolutely is attracting a total new audience, but it's also attracting an audience of people who do love endurance sports. I think when you're done triathlon, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of training. It's multiple sessions a day. So now, like you say, being part of something that doesn't maybe take the same amount of commitment, but you're still getting that community and you're still feeling fitter than you've ever felt in your life. I can see how people find value in it.
It's also just I think there's different people in this, right? So let's think about it from like a normal distribution, right? The top 25% of the diehard triathletes will forever do triathlon. They'll do it for the rest of their lives. The bottom 25% are going to do one and never again anyway. But it's that middle 50%, and it's like, where are we? How do we spend our time, money, and events, right? And they are probably getting cannibalized by, by Hyrox. Right? Those people are probably like, oh, I'll do another Hyrox rather than something else, right? So, yeah.
So funny you mentioned the top 25% that's always going to do a triathlon, always going to do an Ironman. I immediately got a picture in my head. I was flying back to South Africa recently, and the guy in front of me, I don't know, he had like an Ironman backpack, compression. What's the compression company that's like really, they've got really good visibility, Compressor Sport or something, compression socks on. He had his Asics running shoes on. He had his Challenge Roth cap on. I was like, this guy's triathlon through and through. And this is the guy, middle-aged man in his late 40s, executive. He's going to be doing triathlon the rest of his life.
Well, I mean, he was wearing the compression socks, so you couldn't see the M. Dot tattoo on the back of his calf, right? So that was the only thing that you couldn't see.
Not criticizing. We're here for it.
Observation.
We love everything.
No, it's like,
observation.
Listen, I've said this for a long time. There is a huge difference between people who do a sport and people who are a whatever. So there's a huge difference between people who do triathlon and triathletes. There's a huge difference between people who run and runners, right? And when you are the runner or the triathlete, you do a bunch of stuff that's very cliched and all these meme accounts make fun of you. And it's like, just own it. It is what it is, right? Like it's fine. You'll do silly things like, talk about bicarb or buy a new watch or whatever it is. Like we're all the same. It's yeah. So this is meant out of a place of acceptance and love, not and jest, not criticism.
Wait, we need to move on. I've been waiting to read this comment and I cannot wait any longer. We got a great comment on Strava from Shane Evans on David Strava, who wrote to David and said, I heard you've signed up for an event in France. Which one is that? This might help your motivation. I'm keen for a trail race this summer in the French Alps. I'll sign up and join you in the race. The winner gets the satisfaction of hopefully being the number one Aussie. The loser has to compete in a Hyrox shirtless. Are you keen? I want to know your answer because I actually didn't ask you off air.
Yeah, this is great from Shane. So we appreciate Shane. The reason I haven't responded is because I wanted to read this out on air. It was so good. This is in response to the post I put up about motivation levels. And we talked about it on the podcast last week about asking people about events and motivation. So to answer the question, Shane, which one is? It's the Villas, Ultrax Villas, I think it is. It's what it's called. I'm doing the 28 point something kilometer one, whatever it is. You're welcome to send me a DM on Instagram or a DM on Strava. Happy to meet up and do whatever if you're going to come to the race. In terms of like, do I want to race you? Absolutely bloody not. I have no doubt that you're going to beat the pants off me, and I absolutely do not want to have to do a Hyrox as a result of that, and I pay my bets. So
I was going to say the opposite. I was going to say, Shane, this guy will kick your ass. He's very competitive.
Nah, I'm competitive, and I would want to prep properly for it if I did agree to this, and I would do so. But just where my Achilles is at, like I can't be doing that at the moment. I don't even think I can emotionally do it, let alone think about it. So I'm not going to take him up on the bet. I do appreciate the offer, but yeah, I'm too worried about having to go do a Hyrox, which would also get me down a rabbit hole of like over preparing for a Hyrox, which we've discussed before as to why I don't want to do one. So yeah, no, I do appreciate Shane the efforts and the offer. It is kindly accepted. And yeah, do send me a message. We will catch up, maybe for a coffee, not for a race.
Too worried about having to do a Hyrox. That's the quote of this podcast, of this episode so far. We are supported by Core Body Temperature Sensors, and some of you might know we've been running a competition on Instagram the last little while that just blew up. Go check it out. The competition is closed and we're about to announce the winner, but our Instagram page is 1% Better Pod. So welcome to all new subscribers and followers. That competition was so successful. So thank you so much to Core Body Temperature. Anyway, you and I sat this week in our planning meeting and we put the all entrants through a random machine generator thingy. And the winner...
what I'd planned to do was put them through a random number generator, because I was like, oh, this will be easy. Put them with a random number generator. And I, as soon as we were talking about that, you're like, I'm going to have to count the comments. And I was like, oh yeah, that's not going to work so well. And then I was like, surely there's a solution for this. And there are these basically programs that do this for you, because these things are relatively common. So we used one of those and it found our winner, which, as you were about to announce, sorry, mate.
It is Jan Vlada from Slovakia. We've been in touch with Jan. He has been notified. He's over the moon. We almost disqualified him because in his profile picture on Instagram, he's not wearing a shirt. He's a shirtless athlete and he nearly lost out.
Well, thankfully it was during a Spartan, which makes a bit more sense than a Hyrox. So, Jan, congratulations. Well, I think everybody's just happy it wasn't Spencer Louderbeck. He actually sent us a DM and he's like, if I win this, are people going to be like suspicious? And I said, we're not going to help you win it. We're definitely not going to prevent you from winning it. But yes, people will be very suspicious. So I think everybody's happy that it wasn't Spencer.
I would have loved to give it to one of our loyal listeners, but this needed to be above board and fair and everything. So
yeah,
well done to Jan, the Core. I think it's a Core Sensor 2 is on the way to you.
Yes, his details are with Core. They're going to send it out to him. Thankfully, they're kind enough to not make us send it out to him. They send it to us for us to forward on.
Yeah, no. What's come across my desk this week? Just one quick bit we have for you. This is a name I have not heard in a very long time. A brand, Diadora, are partnering with Marathon Sports for a cool promotion. What is this about?
Yeah, I saw this morning and sent it to you, and I was like, this is so smart from them. This is like where marketing is at in 2025, 2026. So they basically said they're going to give $40,000 US for the first high schooler to break 4 minutes in the mile for men or 4:35 in the mile for women wearing their spike, which is just, it's so good. Like, I just cannot explain how good this is. Firstly, it's going to mean a bunch of people running their spike, maybe keep running it and like it. Secondly, a bunch of content around it. Thirdly, like, it's so smart. They're paying $40,000 for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value. Even the story, the fact we're talking about it is going to get so much airtime. This is so smart.
It's so simple. And I always say on this podcast, the best marketing is simplicity. I was working at a coffee shop this morning, which turns into a bar in the evening. And they literally had an A4 size piece of paper up against the wall, split in half with AM, sign of a coffee, PM, sign of a glass of wine. It immediately tells you what this place is about. It's so simple, but often simplicity is hard to achieve. But like you say from Diadora, this is such a simple concept if you break it down to its bare bones, but it is so smart. And they could be getting in a young generation who will be using their product for the next few years. But having said that, the product has to keep up with that interest, and
Well,
hopefully, I'm sure they've got a
the
plan for
problem,
that.
there are only two solutions if you're Diadora or, for instance, Kiprun, and Kiprun is taking the opposite, which is why I brought them up. So if you're Diadora and Kiprun, you have a low perception of value and you're not cool. So you may be making good product, but no one's going to even try you, right? So how do you get shoes on feet? Because your thesis as one of these companies is if people put this on, it's good enough and it can compete and it will be good, right? Because otherwise you
Mm.
don't bother marketing. You're like, if our product's crap, we're not going to bother here, right? Naval once said the reason you're doing sales is because your marketing sucks, and the reason you're doing marketing is because your product sucks, right? So if your product's not good
Interesting.
enough,
Wow.
fix the product, right? As a starting point. Assuming they have a product that is at least comparable or competitive with other brands. Now the question is, how do we get this on feet? And Kiprun has gone one way, which is let's sponsor a bunch of elites and raise the profile of our brand. It's one way. The other way, if you have less money than that, because that costs you lots of money, you have to sponsor multiple people in multiple markets and hope they go well and all that stuff, is
And
let's just get a
leverage
bunch of
that
people.
sponsorship.
Exactly. Let's just get a bunch of people to try this. Like, we think it's good enough that if they put it on, it'll be good. And
Yeah,
so you get
so
them to put it on.
smart.
How do you incentivize it? And they are incentivizing the right set of people. High schoolers who are going to start wearing it and go forward with it and who are going to develop into elite runners going forward.
Let's keep an eye on that. Diadora bouncing back. I used to wear their soccer boots when I played soccer football as a kid, and they were the
Makes
business
sense.
back then. Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes sense. You
Right,
do look
I'm
like a
here for this
Diadora wearer, mate.
episode. Let's get into this. I have been waiting for this. I loved doing this episode a year ago, and I loved when you put this together and sent me my questions to go through 2026. What are predictions and 2025 review?
Yeah, so what we're going to do, there are some questions that are only about the previous year, right? So favorite sporting moment, for instance. So that's the review period. There's, excuse my dog losing his mind. So we have a review, so what we're looking backwards at, and then we have some that are review and preview, which is like goals for 2026. So at that point, we'll also look at our goals from 2025. Right, so that's the way we'll do them. We'll keep them in the same category so that we can go there. So the first four are all about stuff from this year only. They're not, we can't look forward at them yet. So the first one is favorite sporting moment. So mate, what was your favorite sporting moment of the year?
I have two actually. One football, soccer, one rugby. So the first one is Man United. I've been a long suffering Man United fan the last 10 years. So we haven't had many great moments, but there was a game this year. Hey, Mo, what are you barking at, boy?
Man United.
There
He's not
was a
happy.
he's like, shut up already. There's a game this year in the Europa League where they played Lyon, the French team, and they were trailing 4-2 in the 110th minute. And this has happened to us so much. I was so fed up. I went to bed because there are only a handful of minutes left, and like they just scored a penalty. Leon just scored a penalty to make it 4-2, and I was so angry. I went to bed with like 7 minutes left of the game or whatever, 10 minutes left of the game. And then as I was lying in bed, something told me to watch the score. I pulled up the app. I see full time. It is 5-4 to Man United. Now, bear in mind, I went to bed at 4-2 with Leon. With 10 minutes left, Leon was leading. Man United ended up scoring 3 goals in 10 minutes. So that was just, a throwback to Sir Alex Ferguson days. And then my other sporting moment was the Springboks record-breaking winning margin over the All Blacks, right? Beating the All Blacks 43-10, a 33 difference. You got to understand, like, I grew up with a dominant All Blacks. My father's a massive All Blacks fan, so the Springboks being up and down, my childhood, I got nailed. So this was a great sporting moment for me. How about yours?
It's a great sporting moment for anybody from Australia as well, mate. Everyone in Australia loves watching the All Blacks getting beaten. So, wasn't my best sporting moment of the year. I had two as well, ironically. My first one was the Norwegian podium at the Ironman World Championships in the men's race. I was there for that. That was pretty special. It was just really special seeing the boys together and seeing their families and how happy they were. I just thought it was really, really special. That's not something that everyone else got to see, but it was certainly special. Obviously Casper's first year at that distance, Gustav coming back off his Achilles. It was really just a great moment to see them on the podium together, and it was really cool. And the other one was similarly, actually, is Tom Evans and Ruth Croft post finishing UTMB, and the fact that Tom waited around and they all got together with their team and pulled them all out together and all had a bow together, including Joseph Mestrellet, who's a guest on this podcast. There's some great photos of them all together, and I just thought that was a really special moment of like, Tom didn't have to be there for that. Him and Ruth didn't train together, but they kind of see themselves as part of the same team, even though they're not really. They just share a bunch of support staff. So I just thought that was really cool to see those. I thought those were really great moments. And of course, two sports that I follow pretty closely. So, yeah.
You're a people's person. You have somewhat personal involvement in both of those moments. I can see how that is meaningful to you. It's very cool. The next one is most enthralling sporting moment. So the most engrossing moment. I'll go first. Yeah. Mine is actually the World Athletic Championships in Tokyo. I just found that whole event, it's not one particular event, I just found that whole event so captivating. I'm like a fringe athletic fan. I've watched it my whole life growing up, but not like in detail. Whereas this year, because of this podcast, been following it a lot more, and I found that very, very enjoyable.
I was going to say the same. I was going to say it's because of this podcast, because we're talking about it, because I'm highlighting things, or because we are highlighting things and talking about it. I reckon it helps, and hopefully that's how listeners feel. Right? Hopefully listeners are going like, their experience of watching whatever is added to by us. That would be the goal, or one of the goals for this podcast. So
that would be cool.
I'm stoked to hear that, mate. And I'm keen. I'm hoping you've done some homework this time on your predictions, because your predictions from last year about that were terrible, mate. So anyway, hoping you did a little bit of homework before this one. Mate, mine was the Ironman World Championships, both of them. I was thinking about this, trying to think back to engrossing moments, and I remember like text messages flying to me about the women's fight, like the women's thing, like, oh my gosh, are you watching this? Check it out in the run. And I remember watching it, going like, this is chaos, it's so engrossing. All of a sudden, everyone's falling over. And then similarly, I remember being in the VIP area at the men's World Championships, and seeing KB cramp and me yelling out, like swearing, screaming when he started cramping in front of, like, it's at the booths. Everyone's like sort of very politely watching TV, and I just screamed at the loudest, like, so yeah, I just remember thinking that it doesn't get more engrossing than that when you're watching and all of a sudden you blurt something out you shouldn't be blurting out. So I thought I have to say that. So yeah, I thought that was it was in a very engrossing moment. I think people would agree. When that run started, everyone was like, what is going to happen here? What is going to happen here? So it was cool. Very cool there. Let's get on to performance of the year, mate. Men's and women's. We're going to do a men's and women's performance of the year. So what were your performances of the year?
I'll start with men. Mine was Mondo Duplantis at the aforementioned World Athletic Championships, just setting that world record with the last jump of the night. Like, I was actually watching it back and listening to the commentator, and it was just, it was like you're witnessing greatness. Yeah.
Did you see, there was a bunch of stats that came out about him announcing he's coming to London Diamond League, and the ticket sales like shooting up. It was crazy. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I can't remember the stat. I remember 115 for some reason. I think it's 115% or something. Like, I assume they just doubled the ticket sales straight away or something like that, which wouldn't surprise me. He is a superstar, but like, it's kind of surprising that people care enough about pole vault to see Mondo, right? It's kind of like one of those, he's striking me as one of those sports people who's now transcending the sport a little bit, where it's just like, he's a great sports person that you want to see. Like, you want to see Tiger Woods, you want to see Roger Federer, you want to see Mondo Duplantis, you want to, like, it's just, this is a person I want to see him compete, so I can tell my kids I saw that.
Yeah, they're not going to see pole vault. They're going to see greatness. Like,
yeah.
And my women's performance, my female performance of the year was Sydney McLaughlin-Leveroni in the 400 meter. She ran the fastest time in 40 years in the 400 meter flat. She's traditionally a hurdler. Everyone was like, what's going to happen here? She beat the Olympic champions. Set a championship record again. I watched that on YouTube in preparation for this, and goosebumps, man. So I'd give her the performance of the year. Let's see how she goes in
LA. Interesting. Okay. There's some interesting stuff around the LA Olympics and the scheduling for the track and field. We haven't discussed it on this pod yet. I just figured if we did, it would be too far out. So it's something
Mhm.
we'll talk about closer to the time, I think, rather than talking about it many, many years out. But they're talking about ability to do doubles and like, can she do the 400 hurdles double and all that stuff. So, yeah, we will certainly have a chat about that at some point closer to the time. And I think we should be facilitating as much of that as we can. If people want to do doubles, we should be trying to facilitate that, and we can certainly do so. My two of the year, probably unsurprisingly, for the men's is Casper. Like, amazing debut year. Casper Storns in the Ironman World Championships. He obviously won that, but he had, it was his first year up in Ironman. He went from, candidly not earning much money because he'd come from short course to like basically changed his whole lifestyle based on winning and changing sponsors and all that stuff. So it was really cool to see that, and just a huge performance. Even if you think about that race, how he dropped off the back and was like running within himself to then come through. So yeah, really impressive performance, I think. And then Melissa Jefferson Wooden at the World Track and Field Championships. So she did the sprint double and a championship record in the 100 meters. So that was a
Funny you
really
say that because I actually had mine in there as performance of the. I had her in for performance of the year, and then I changed it and I moved her to the next category, which we're gonna do, which is most surprising performance of 2025. So I put Melissa Jefferson Wooden in that category simply because she achieved a historic sprint treble at the World Championships in Tokyo, winning gold in the 100, 200, and 4x100 relay, and she was undefeated for the whole of the 100-meter season this year, with a world leading time of 10.61 seconds. So for me, that was the most surprising performance of the year, just because I started watching, as I mentioned, a lot more athletics. And last year, during the Paris Olympics and leading up to it, she was there or thereabouts, but nowhere near like winning like she did this year. So that's my most surprising performance of 2025.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's a fair take from you, mate. I like where you're at with that. Mine was Geordie Beamish in the steeplechase. I don't think anybody would have picked him. Like, you would have gotten so much money for Geordie Beamish in that steeplechase over El Bakali. Like, that guy's almost undefeatable at World Championships. I would have. He was almost one of the surest bet gold medals. It's like, if this guy doesn't fall, he wins this, and he bloody didn't. Particularly, and he would have got even more money after Geordie Beamish copped a spike to the face in the rounds, mate. So there was that. And then I wanted to give a special mention to that box versus island test. That was, we talked about on this podcast, that was by far the most bizarre thing I've seen in rugby in my whole life of viewing it. So, like, when we think about surprising, like, I was surprised those yellow cards kept coming. And I was surprised at how well Ireland managed to hold the box and all those things. So I thought that was, I wanted to give a special mention to that, because that was, yeah, we won't see that again, ever.
Was
Like,
that
we
the
just,
one where they were they defending with their lives on the goal line, on the try line, multiple
yeah,
times and
with,
stopping
with
the
12
Springboks?
players.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
that was
bizarre.
incredible. Wow,
Yeah.
wow.
So now these next ones, what we're going to do is we're going to look back at our 2025 answers and then give our 2026 answers. So that's how we're going to do these ones. So these are our sporting goals for 2026, but we'll do 2025 review first. So
These
you
are
said,
personal sporting goals, right?
yes, these are our personal sporting
Uh,
goals.
Mine is so depressing, man. Let's go through
Well,
it quickly.
yours said, I just want to avoid having an operation and keep doing my rehab and strength work and getting stronger. And I just want to get back to being healthy so that I'm able to run and cycle again and ignore the swims that you give me. That is the direct quote. I listened back to the last year's episode to get this direct quote for you. So, I mean, firstly, I'm glad you're still ignoring the swims. Secondly, I did think this was a good time to reflect back and think about things, because a listener of the podcast, I went for a run the other day and asked, and he was asking about your, where you're at and whether and what I thought about it. And I said the decision making at the beginning, at least when I was discussing it with you, was like, I don't think this is going to set you back. I think you'll be in a better place for that. And I still think that that's the case. You've given it a good red hot crack. I think you're in a better place to make this decision. I think you're happier about getting the surgery now than you were a year ago. So I think, we could talk about time. I also think you're happier with the surgeon you're going with as well, which I think is really important for successful outcomes as well. So I think, given all that, it was the right decision making process. But I'm interested in your take on this.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I was thinking back on this from the very time my nerves started giving me issues. I went to see a chiropractor, and he immediately said I need a spinal fusion, which is something I didn't even know about. So it was a big shock to the system. It was like, hey man, I'm coming to see you for a bit of nerve pain. What do you mean? I got a bit of pain in my glutes. What do you mean I need this massive operation? So I think the last year for myself, I had to go through various processes of coming to terms with it. So that being, okay, what can we do to alleviate the pain? What do other experts say? What's a second opinion? What can I do around exercise and nutrition to help it? Okay, I still have more pain, so I need a laminectomy. So that's a much smaller surgery. Still, then having a lot of pain from a laminectomy. So okay, if I'm hearing this term spinal fusion more and more from more medical experts, maybe it's something I need to start thinking about seriously. So what does that involve, and who can do it, and what does life look like afterwards? So like you say, the cherry on top was meeting the surgeon who's going to do it, who had a much more positive outlook on life post surgery compared to other medical professionals I'd met through this journey. So yeah, I had to go through that process for a year to know that I feel like I'm in the place to do this now. It's the right decision to do. Um, then if we would, do you want me to go into 2026, because that
Yeah, let's
that
go.
dovetails into that then.
Yeah,
So
let's do
for
that.
me, I don't have any sporting goals. My only goal is to recover from the operation. The surgeon said that it'll take about 6 to 9 months for the vertebrae to fuse in someone of my age group and activity. But I speak to a number of people, and they have this perception of me that I love doing endurance sports so much, I won't be patient with my rehab and I'll push the envelope. And I have the exact opposite view of myself. I thought I've been very patient, and I feel like I'm a very good decision maker within reason. Obviously, there are days where you sort of trial stuff. So someone yesterday was saying to me, "Oh, just be careful after the operation, take your time." And then my neighbor was saying the same thing to me, and I was like, man, I've made peace with this. Like, my number one goal next year is rehab, recovery, everything as it should happen, taking it step by step. I'm not going to rush back to running. I'm not going to rush back to the bike unless I'm ready for those things, and those things will aid me in my recovery. So that's my goal for next year.
I think there's also like a don't rush back to life. It sounds a bit weird, but like there's a I've only heard that people take a bit of time from a like recovery standpoint from this in the early phases, getting back to like just normal daily life and being able to live it as it is. And so like I would encourage you to take your time with that as well. And that includes, we have a rough idea of when we think you'll be back on the podcast, but that is very much written in pencil. And if that needs to blow out, then so be it as well, mate. So yeah, I think that's probably the only other thing I'd say to you around that is be a bit careful with that. Um, so yeah, but
So
I'm
as I said,
hoping you're
mine's
back
very
to it.
depressing. I'm sure listeners are sick of this, man. Let's get to what they're here for: endurance, and they're here for sport. But let's start with your
This is
2025
this is
goal.
this is awkward when it comes to my goals, but my goals for 2025 were tolerating a good load, so 80 to 120 k's a week, and I did that for part of the year. Half marathon PB, which I did, which was great. Enjoy New York City
Which
Marathon,
was,
76, I think around 76.
yeah, I think so, yeah.
And then I said, enjoy New York Marathon, which I didn't do. And then I said, and the
So
London
you did
Marathon.
enjoy it.
Yeah. And then do the London Marathon, which I didn't do either. And then I didn't get to do a trail race, which I said I wanted to do as well. So some of these were out of my control. Some of them were in my control. Probably speaks to like a year of two halves, right? You always hear this like it was a game of two halves. It was a year of two halves for me. First half of the year, a lot more running, a lot better running. Probably even the first quarter of the year, not really half. And then now goals, I guess. My sort of, I have two goals. It's like, so my main goal is to overhead squat body weight, which is not an endurance goal. It's something that I sort of thought about doing when I was a lot younger, and now I'm like, no, let's actually get this done. I'm progressing well on that goal already. I hit 70 kilos yesterday for probably 5 or 6. So I'm 15 kilos, 16 kilos short. Although my depth I wasn't super happy with my depth on those. But anyway, the point is, that's my goal as it sits at the moment. I would like to get back to competing, maybe. I would like to be open to getting back to competing. At the moment, I'm like not willing to compete. I'm willing to maybe complete, but not compete. So let's see if that changes. I'm, I don't want to compete at the moment, but I want to compete, maybe, I think.
That's
So
a good goal.
yeah.
It's a good goal. Well, you've taken a step in the right direction. You've got an event already lined up for
Yeah, well, let's
2026.
let's see how we go with that first. Let's see how that goes. Uh,
Okay, the next topic is sporting event you're most looking forward to. Do you want to start with your 2025 one?
yeah, so I said UTMB, Katie versus Courtney, which we didn't see, and I'd love to see Ruth with another year of prep. Now that is, we didn't see Katie, we did see Courtney. Courtney didn't have a great year, but we did see Ruth with another year of prep, and she won it. So I'll take the W on that one, and say that I predicted it.
Listen,
And
I got to stop you again on a first name basis. Let me see if I get this right. That's Ruth Croft, Courtney
yes,
DeWalter, and
yes,
what's the other name you said?
Katie shied.
Okay.
So yes, but yeah, so I was very keen to see Katie versus Courtney. Katie versus Courtney. Didn't see that, although we will see that in the next year at Hard Rock. I think we're going to see that, which will be really cool. Um, but yeah, I was keen to see Ruth Croft and how she went with another year of prep, given she podiumed and she won it. So that was really cool to see that and see her do that. What about you? What did you predict, mate? Or sorry, what were you most looking forward to? This was cool.
I was looking forward to the Cycling World Championships coming to Rwanda in Africa for the very first time. Never been to Africa before. For new listeners who don't know, I work in professional cycling, and my North Star in life is to globalize professional cycling through Africa, bringing Africa to it as a continent. So, this was something I was very much looking forward to. There was a really, really hard course, and I predicted maybe 40 to 50 people finishing out of 200 starters. I actually looked it up. In the men's elite race, only 30 finished. Tadej Pogacar won. And in the women's elite race, only 53 finished. So I wasn't far off there.
Jeez, mate, we did well on these. We did
Yeah.
well. We did well picking these. So that's cool, man. I was wondering if you'd done the research on what had actually happened. When I heard you call only 40 to 50 would finish, I was like, oh, that'll be close this year. So yeah, that's cool, man. This is the value of opening the time capsule, man. It's cool. All right, what are you looking forward to
Yeah.
this year, man?
So I'm not looking forward to one particular sporting event, but I am looking forward to. So I was in London recently. I stayed with you, and I was on stage at Rouleur Live, announcing an organization I work with, Team Amani, which is an African cycling team looking to help African cycling develop African cyclists to the highest level. And we announced basically the first ever UCI Women's Continental team from Africa, with the goal of making it to the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift by 2028. So next year will be the first time that the women have a significant block of racing in Europe. So some of those races will be at the highest level of the sport. So they have two blocks in Europe, so 2 3 month blocks in Europe next year. So I'm looking forward just to see as a milestone how far off from world class we are. So not one particular event I'm looking forward to, but I'm looking forward to seeing these African athletes, predominantly from East Africa, that we are supporting, how far they are from becoming the best in the world. So I'm so excited for 2026.
I'm very excited for that as well, actually. Now that you mentioned that, yeah, that'll be cool to watch.
Yeah, you
Mine,
working on it behind the scenes with your not invisible hand, but leaning on all of your experience and mentoring the performance, some of the performance coaches at the organization. So you'll be watching it closely for sure.
oh, definitely, definitely. But I, so mine for this year is probably not going to surprise anyone. I'm looking forward to Femke Ball running the 800 meters, man. Like, I want to see what this looks like. I'm so keen. We talked a little bit to in an upcoming episode that we've thrown forward to already with Mario Frioli. We talked to him about this, and he's got an interesting take on it. And yeah, this is probably the thing that I'm most interested in. I used to run some 800 meters. I find it to be interesting. I find Femke to be a cool athlete. So yeah, yeah,
Right. Should we move on to predictions for 2026? Let's start with the Tour de France and Tour de France Femme. So we predicted our 2025 winners. Both of us were half right only. We got the men's race right. I got Tadej Pogacar as the winner.
yep,
And on the women's race, I went for Demi Vollering, who did
yeah,
not win. I think she ended up finishing second behind Pauline Ferrand-Prévot, who came back for her first year of road racing after being on the mountain bike predominantly for the last 3 4 years, and she surprised everyone to win it. So how wrong I was.
yep. That was, and then I called Poggy, and I also said Remco was going to struggle because of his injury,
Yeah,
which was which
yeah,
was a good take from me. So I'll take 1.5
yeah.
points
He
here.
abandoned after stage 15. I think I was listening
Yeah,
back to the episode, and I was like, "Geez, you were on it. You said he's going to struggle because of that crash he had
yeah,
earlier last year."
Yeah, so I will. I'll take the W on that one, the 1.5, and I call Puck Peterson, which surprised you last
That's a
year.
big L. That's
Yeah,
a big L.
I was a brave Al. It was a moonshot because Demi would have been the easy answer. If you'd said you have to take conservative bets, I would have bet like you, and I was no more wrong than you were, mate. So it's wrong and right is binary. You picked it for a win, you didn't win, mate. So I was no more wrong than you were. I was braver than you were though. So yeah. All right, who are you picking this year, mate? What are your selections for this year?
Oh, it's so hard, so far out, but I'm going to be boring and choose this year's winners again. I'm going to go with Tadej Pogacar to win the men's race and Pauline Ferrand Prevot to win the women's race again. Not basing it on any other logic than they were the dominant forces this year, and I don't see there's a lot of work to do to close the gap to both of those winners.
I agree with that, particularly in the context of not a lot of injuries. Having said that, Jonas was coming off injury, so I think it'll be closer this year. I think failing crashes and that sort of stuff. I think Jonas will be closer to Tade this year. It'll be a harder. So I mean, Tade eventually won by a bit, but it was a pretty close for a long time. I think we'll probably see it be even smaller margins this year. Uh,
Yeah,
so that would be my prediction, is that the gap closes a little bit because it's hard to maintain that sort of gap. So that's the first thing I'd say, particularly with a year of racing for Jonas without interruption, because he had an interrupted build last year. I don't know if Pauline's going to win it again. I'm going to pick Demi on this one. I just think she's
oh,
going to come
why is
back.
that?
I think she last year assumed she was going to win this and had underestimated Pauline Ferrand Prevot. And I think
Mm,
there was a lot of discussion around Pauline's weight and her body composition change and that sort of stuff. And I think that takes quite a bit out of you. And I'm wondering if she's going to do the same thing, or if she wants to, or if she's been discouraged by some of that discourse. And I'm wondering what that sort of evolution where she pushes that, I think is going to push Demi as well. So I think Demi changed teams and was just going to assume she was going to win it. And she's like, Kazia's not coming. We're happening here. So I reckon Demi's going to come back with an absolute vengeance. So let's see,
that's a
man.
good shot. That's a very good observation from you. I will say, when I was in London at Relay Live, Pauline Ferrand Prevot was one of the guest speakers, and she highlighted the tour and defending the tour as one of her priorities for the year. And when she sets herself a goal, man, she almost always nails it. What I can say is fans are in for an exciting season. That's all I can say. Sport needs multiple people at a similar level going up against each other and not knowing what the outcome's going to be. That's so good for the sport. Should we move on to athletics, male and female winners at the Athletic Ultimate Championship? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't even want to go through 2025 and the predictions we made at the World Athletic Championships. I was awful at these.
It was interesting. It was interesting. So we made predictions for the World Championships, which was last year. These predictions for this year are going to be for the Ultimate Championships, which is some weird race that they've made up and whatever. Happens every second year because you've got an Olympic year, this Ultimate Championships, then a World Championships, then the Ultimate Championships again. Right. So otherwise, you'd only have every second year you'd have a major championship. Now you have one every year, which is fine. Whatever. It is what it is. So in 2025, in the 100 meters, you picked Letsile Tebogo and Julian Alfred.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said to you at the time that I thought Letsile was a bold pick because he's actually a 200 meter runner.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
he got disqualified, which was that wasn't what it was. And Julian Alfred ended up with a hamstring injury, and she got third. So I think leading into the year, she was a good pick. But I think earlier, as we got closer to the event, I definitely said she was not going to be a factor because of that result.
Yeah.
Um,
It's hard doing these predictions so far out. But
that's
anyway,
part of why we
it's
do it,
my
because it's
excuse.
like you're trying to predict stuff that is really like it's super far in advance. So yeah.
Yeah.
So let's pick. That was the 100 meters. You pick your hundreds for the year. So who are you
For the
picking for
coming
this year?
year,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Keishane Thompson in the
Yeah.
men's and Melissa Jefferson Wooden in the women's.
Okay. I think those are good picks. Those are good picks. I like that.
Similar logic to what I did a year ago. Who's performing? And you just go with. Except Thompson didn't win this year, but he was close. So I reckon he's going to step it up next year. Let's see.
Yeah. So I mentioned uh, that I was going for Keishane Thompson last year, and he got second.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said I picked Julian Alfred as well, who ended up third with her hamstring. But I mentioned how good Shikari's squad was, and to watch for them. And that's where Melissa
Yes.
Jefferson Wooden was from. So I was like,
Yeah.
we don't get credit for that, but it was interesting listening back to that and picking it. So I'm going to be boring, and I'm going to pick Keisha and Julian Alfred again.
Oh,
Like,
interesting.
well, I
I
think
reckon Alfred's got a motivation to come back, man.
yeah, she's a absolute beast. I think at her best she wasn't
Mm,
going to get beaten, but you have to be availability is the best ability. So she has to be
yeah.
available and
Yeah.
uninjured. So yeah, it's good. All right, let's go to the 1500 meters.
So I chose Cole Hocker in the men's race. He, I think, didn't even make the finals of the 1500
He didn't
meters and he got
qualify.
disqualified.
He didn't qualify in
Oh,
the
he didn't
1500 meters.
qualify.
Yeah, he didn't get to run because he didn't win
Yeah,
He
yeah.
didn't make it through the US champs. He did
Right.
qualify and go for the 1500 meters. Sorry, the 5000 meters, and he got disqualified in the semi for
And he
pushing.
got disqualified.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I
So
remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
And then in the women's race, I went with Faith Kipyegon, but she's the GOAT, so got that one right. Who
yeah,
did you go with?
that wasn't a hard pick. So I went for Jakob Ingebrigtsen. He was out in the heats after coming off an injury, and then I went for Faith as well. So we both got Faith, unsurprisingly. And Jakob didn't do so well, but I'll take the W over you, mate, because my guy at least got to run there.
Yeah.
So who are you picking this year?
And this year, I'm going to go with Nils Laros. I really like in the men's race, 1500 meters. I really like the way he raced the Diamond League. When it came to World Championships, he was not there yet, but I think he would have gained a lot of experience as a young racer. And then if Faith Kipyegon is going to do the 1500 still, I'll go with that again.
You copied my homework, mate. Those are my exact picks. I really like Nils
Really?
Laros. Yeah.
I'm glad I went first then.
Yeah.
Just so listeners know, we do this separately. We don't show it to each other. So this is the first time we're finding out each other's picks.
Yeah. I have written here. That's right. So this is the predictions we made closer to the. I'm just trying to make sense
Are you
of this.
okay there?
No, these are the winners.
I'm also trying to.
Okay, these are the winners. So Oblique Seville won the 100 meters. Melissa Jefferson won the women's 100. Faith Kipyegon won the 1500. Isaac Nader from Portugal won the 1500 men's. And then I made predictions for the marathon last year in the World Championships. I picked Tamara Tola and Helena Beery. Neither of them even raced. They both did World Marathon majors instead, which is part of the problem with picking this far out. And the winners there were Peres Jepchicha and Alphonse Simbu. So, yeah. So there's no marathon at the Ultimate Championships, so we're not picking that in 2026, thankfully.
Yeah. Okay, let's race through the next few. We made our picks for the Ironman World Championships, winners male and female. For 2025, I went with Lucy Charles Barkley in the women's race, and I went with Gustav Eden, mostly because I wanted him to win. Lucy Charles Barkley was a DNF, while still in second position on the run, I think. I think everyone remembers that.
She was
the course, and then...
Yeah, sorry, she wasn't second at the time. You're right, because we had this discussion about like how it was easy to pull her off in second, not first. Yep, sorry, carry on.
Yeah. And then Gustav Eden ended up finishing second. So I wasn't too far off there.
Yeah, did well. You're better than me, mate. I picked Kat Matthews, who got second in the end. She in a very tight finish. And then I said Magnus, and you thought I'd pick Rudy Ronberg, and I did not.
Yeah,
both of those people DNF'd, and I picked one to watch, which is Marjolaine Pierre, and she got 32nd. So that was a massive dud from me. So who are you picking this year, mate? Who have you got?
2026, I'm going to go with Sam Laidlow and Lucy Charles Barkley.
Okay, interesting. Any reasoning for that?
Well, Lucy Charles, I just think she knows how to win. She knows how to come back. She's had setback after setback, and I think that makes you resilient. And I think there's valuable experience for high-performance athletes to learn to overcome hardships. I think it makes them better athletes. And then Sam Laidlaw, he was very quiet this year. I don't remember him racing, in the bigger high-profile events a lot of the time.
Except for Challenge
I think he was finding his way. Yeah, but he won that, and he was finding his way in smaller events besides Roth. I have this feeling that 2026 he's going to want to show what he's shown in previous years. That's the feeling I have.
Well, he's a bit of rocks or diamonds in general, so it would make sense that if he's not rocks this year, he's diamonds. I get that pick.
Mm.
I have made. Do you want to think? Do you want to guess who I've picked?
You went with Lucy Charles Barkley as well. I saw you nodding away when I picked her.
Or you also saw me type it in, but yes.
I
Okay. So
was
I,
cheating. I did see you updating the Google Doc.
and so the reason I picked her is because the Norwegians have said this multiple times. It's easy to win your first time. It's really hard to repeat because every single one of the Norwegians has won in their debut
Mm,
and they haven't repeated.
yeah, yeah.
So
I
it's
think
quite
you're going to
funny.
go with Christian. Christian in the men's race.
No, so I don't pick the Norwegians. I said last year I picked Magnus because I know it will. If they listen and find out, they'll at least be motivated. I don't want to pick with my heart. So I'm actually going to pick Martin van Riel.
Oh, wow.
So
In the
here's
full
why.
distance. Interesting.
Here's why. He was in fourth at the Ironman World Championships this year and looking good after having barely run. And he got the
Mm.
shits after that mess in the T100. And he's basically written them off. So I don't think he's going to race T100 next year. So I think he's going to go all in on Ironman World. I think he's going to go Ironman Pro Series, and I think he's going to be a good shot in that Ironman marathon, in the Ironman in general.
Man, good detective skills there. Wow. Can't wait now. Can't wait to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, well, we do.
Let's move on to.
I do proper prep for this, mate. We don't mess around here. We do proper prep.
Well, the next thing you put in was predictions for Nations Cup rugby winner. What
Yeah,
is? Talk to me about the Nations Cup rugby.
mate. I sent you this thing, didn't I? I sent it to you the other day and said this will help you with your prep. The Nations Cup is basically a way of making a bit of a tournament style, so that we have something between Rugby World Cups. And so they play off top 12
Mm.
nations play, and then there's like a nation, there's a second tier Nations Cup as well. It's basically trying to get these top tier nations playing more frequently into a final, right? So we have something between World Cups, which I think is a great idea. It's probably going to help try and align the calendars a little bit, the global rugby calendar. So they basically split it into Northern and Southern Hemisphere, and you play there's 6 teams in each. You basically play everybody from the other hemisphere, and then you play finals, and you have sixth places play off, fifth places play off, fourth, third, second, first. Finals at Twickenham, yeah, in London. So I think it's a cool concept, and I'm excited to see what happens for this, mate. And so, I mean, you're going to pick the
I'm
box, of course.
Yeah, my pick is South Africa. I'm really a little worried. I feel like we are playing exceptional rugby and doing something that's never been done before, being this dominant in the way that we are. But I'm worried that we are peaking too soon, so far out from a World Cup. But anyway, I'm still going to go with South Africa as the winners for the Nations Cup rugby. Who are you going to go with?
Well, some
You
people
understand
actually,
rugby a lot more than me.
yeah, and I actually did some prep as well and had a look at the draws and did all that sort of stuff. I am picking England over the box. So it's going to be an England versus Springboks final, and I think England's going to win. Here's why. They're going to be playing at home. Not that South Africa considers Twickenham an away match. They've beaten the absolute pants off many teams at Twickenham, including the All Blacks and England. So they're not going to be intimidated by that. But I think England will get up a bit. England have a great history of peaking too early and prioritizing things that don't matter in World Cup years or the year prior. So I think they'll come out, they're feeling themselves a bit at the moment. So I think they're going to go hard at this, and the Box are not going to be. They're just going to get knocked off in this by I think the Box will lose this, and I don't think it's going to make a difference. And I think the Box will have perspective on this. They'll be trying stuff. They'll be putting young kids in there. They'll be blooding them. And I think that may cost them. They'll play a brand of rugby that's a bit more expansive, whereas England's going to play very test match, box kick, whatever. So England will play winning rugby. Box will be keeping perspective, which is we're still trying to win the next World Cup. So I think because of that, England squeak through, and then let's see how we go.
Interesting. I must tell you, I went to the Stormers game last weekend. They played in my town. I went to go watch them at the stadium, and Sasha Feinberg, Mgomba Zulu was playing, and Kobus Reinach was playing. Amazing to watch them in person, man. That was just incredible. Let's move on to next is the FIFA World Cup. Looking forward to that taking place in America, Canada, and Mexico. Who are you going with as winners for that?
I'm going, and I've looked at the draw for this. This is possible. I'm going Portugal over the Dutch. So that is my
So
pick. Yeah.
I mean, I would go with the Dutch as well for sure. Mine is France, but with the caveat, I want Portugal to win. It would be so cool to see Cristiano Ronaldo winning a World Cup after Lionel Messi and Argentina won the last one. Two goats of the sport. Like I know he really, really wants it, and I think he's going to drag the team. Portugal have a good side, and he's going to
Yeah.
drag the team from a leadership perspective all the way there. But I'm going
I'm,
with France just because of their squad depth. They're used to the big occasion. The last couple of World Cups, they've made the finals, so they know what it takes. And their core group are coming into their prime now. So, yeah, and
I,
PSG in particular, and France are just playing incredible football.
I also think we're going to see a ton of controversy off the field, but we're going to be saved by the fact that the football is going to be great and everyone's just going to forget.
What kind of controversy?
Visa stuff, political stuff,
Politics.
yeah, all that
Yeah,
stuff,
it's already happened.
protests,
The
yeah,
ticket
yeah, yeah.
prices are insane. It's crazy. It'll be interesting to see if they're going to fill up stadiums. Okay, the final two things we're going to touch on, well, not the final things, but a little bit bigger, sporting landscape change and trends we started seeing in 2025 and continue. Let's go with sporting landscape change. Last year we spoke about breakaway leagues, right? I said we're going to
That was
keep
the
seeing leagues.
example. That was the example we gave, and then you said, "Yeah, we're going to see that."
I don't know. Okay. We did see that. We seeing
You-
leagues trying
we're
to
going to see.
expand.
You'll see. You said we're going to see leagues expanding, athletes burning out, and they're going to be close to breaking point. That's what you were talking about. You were talking about player loads and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm trying to think now if we did see that, how that prediction, what that prediction was. One thing we did see was La Liga wanted to take a game to the US. So
Yep.
local Spanish game to the US, and that was called off. They had to call that off after the players and fans protested.
Well, that is a trend we're seeing more and more, right? We've seen the NFL move, like do a bunch in Europe. So they traditionally used to do a couple
Mm.
games in England, and then they did. Oh, sorry, in London. They used to do like one or two games in London. Then last year they did one in Germany. Sorry, two. I don't know. They did one in Germany. Then this year it was Germany, and they did one in Mexico, and they did one somewhere else, Ireland as well. So I think we're going to keep seeing that happening for sure. I talked about consolidation of breakaways. I thought we'd like see them sort of come back together. So like kind of live golf reamalgamates the PGA. I don't know if we saw that, but yeah.
I
So
think
what's your
so. Yeah, I think we saw a bit of that. Yeah.
so what do we see from what's your prediction for 2026 sporting landscape change? The part of the problem with this is
I'm
like we're talking about macro trends that happen over a period that's longer than a year. But anyway, we're going to stick to our guns. Carry on.
I'm reading a preview of a book about sports washing in football at the moment. So that's going to be my prediction. I think we're going to continue seeing sports washing. I think we're going to continue seeing countries with questionable human rights records continue to use sport to boost their image. We've seen a lot of that the last 5, 6 years, and I think it's only going to increase. So that's one thing I
So
think is going to be on the up
so
in the
that's probably
sporting
the
landscape.
it's probably the answer to like number 8, like the next question, mate. The trends we'll start to see or continue to see in 2025. It's probably the answer to that.
I will tell you the answers because I didn't put in the answers. I used the AI machine to give me
No, no,
answers for that because I actually
that
want to
was
learn and
last
see what's
year.
out there. And I'm going to read them to you. No, no,
That
I
was
did it
last
this
year.
year. Just
The
I
sporting
did it this
landscape
year again.
change. Okay, no, so the sporting landscape change. You're
Or
saying
the
sport.
trains.
What are we saying for the
Yeah.
sporting landscape change, mate? You said
Well, what are
sport
you
washing.
before we? Yeah, yeah. So for you, so my 2026 prediction for sporting landscape change is sports washing. What's yours?
Okay. Mine was player health discussions with player load. So they're going to this is going to get louder and louder and louder, and they're going to keep talking about how do we manage load better? Can we load manage? Like this has been a discussion in American sports for a while, but I think it's going to get more and more, and there's going to start being like when contracts like CBAs come up, collective bargaining agreements. This is going to be part of the discussion is be that in major American sports, other ones as well, and there's going to be like these tugs of war. You know, you see it in rugby between where guys have got to sit a certain amount of time out. Right, we talked a bit about that on the podcast. There's going to be this sort of tug of war around load management type stuff. It's going to get more because most leagues want to increase games, even though the most
Mm.
valuable league in the world has the least games, and it's they are trying to increase that as well. But you know, and we're starting to see the cost of that to some degree, right? We just saw a couple of ACLs in key players over the weekend in the NFL, and I think that you know that's part of it. That issue is loading related.
I got to say, it's something I'm hearing a lot from the Manchester United manager in his press conferences. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, other fans can correct me. These are the least amount of injuries I've seen Man United players have in a very long time. And players who are injury prone, who've really struggled the last 3, 4 years, and even longer in the team with injuries every few months. They haven't had any injuries this season. And the manager's talking about load management a lot. They're really, really focused on that. So interesting that you say that. Right, trends we will start to see or continue from 2025. In 2025, I asked ChatGPT to help me with this, and it said wearable tech will be increasing, AI and data analytics, VR training, and the rise of esports, increased growth of women's sports. We mentioned women's cricket. Love the level of the cricket. By the way, I went yesterday to watch the Proteas women's play, the South African cricket team, for the very first time in person. They played in
Yeah.
my town. I took a couple of hours out in the afternoon to go watch them, and it was very cool to
Yeah.
see.
So you
Actually, I
you
never thought
talked
I'd see
about
that in my lifetime.
well, you talked about last year that your friend was talking about it, and then mid-year you said you actually watched some. So it's cool to see this women's
Yeah,
cricket come up multiple times. I'd forgotten that you'd said those things, so it was cool to hear that. And then you talked about sustainability in sport. We obviously had Nicole Lower on here talking about her role with FIFA as well, so to sort of tie back into that World Cup stuff as well. So yeah, for
yeah.
those people who want to go listen back to that sustainability in sport, that was a really good episode actually. So what did ChatGPT tell you this year?
No, I want to mention yours first because mine will piggyback onto that, what it told me. You said more funding for Upstart and Women's League, right?
Yep. And I said more supporters as personalities. We talked about Snoop Dogg and we talked about some of the South
Mhm.
African rugby guys as well. And then I said there'd be a discussion about carbon monoxide at the Tour de France, which absolutely was not the case. And then I said there'd be an arms race in general and for prototypes in shoes. So there's going to be a bit of a like shoe tech war that I don't know if we saw, to be honest. I think it's sort of, if anything, everything's sort of leveled out and there's not really an arms race in that. Although you could argue that there's, yeah, some shoes are maybe better and some athletes who are unsponsored are going that way. But yeah, I don't know how we went there, but I definitely think we saw more funding flying into weird sports and upstart leagues and women's sports.
So with the women's sports, what the machine told me was trends will see in 2026
Yeah.
is women's sport crossing the point of no return. So we're going to see a commercial maturity of the sport and multi-year sponsorship. So no more pilot, not just pilot projects, but multi-year sponsorship, standalone media rights, and women's teams no longer being bundled as add-ons, but real like strategic properties. So and that's interesting.
I disagree. I
You
think
disagree
that's.
with that?
I don't think they're going to be profitable at this stage.
Hmm.
I don't think it's going to cross a point of no return. I think women's sport is still on an inflection and maybe it's even hockey sticking. I do think we'll start to see multi-year sponsorships. I think that's possible. I don't know if we'll see standalone media rights yet. We may. And I don't think we're going to stop seeing them bundled with men's sports at this stage because they're not profitable yet. So I don't think they're going to be profitable at this stage. I think that deficit is too high because what we're trying to provide at this stage is equitable workplaces, which is to say the men fly this way, therefore the women are going to fly that way. And that's going to cannibalize the profit for a period of time. So they're going to run at a less deficit. So we're still going to be in a deficit for a period, for a long while. I don't think it's going to happen next year. I think it's foreseeable happening in the next 5 years, but I do not think we're going to see it next year. Even in the world's biggest leagues, like
Interesting.
that delta is too big at the moment. I think because
I'm look.
if you're trying to create equitability, it's just going to be too expensive for you to draw a profit because they are not that worth that much money yet. Everybody's betting on them, but they're betting on potential. They're not betting on, and they're betting on the chance of growth. They're not betting on the product at this stage.
I'd agree with that. I'd agree with you over the AI. I'd agree with that. The other predictions it made for trends in 2026 is athletes as media houses. So in 2026, athletes won't just post content, they'll run channels. So we're already seeing a lot of this
Yeah,
long
that
form YouTube
exists.
content,
Yep.
podcast, all of it exists. Direct brand partnerships without teams or federations as the middleman. But
Yeah.
the one thing it said, which I found was interesting, was revenue from memberships, paid communities, and drops. We're also seeing some of that, but it's saying that will continue into
Yeah.
2026.
Well, OnlyFans
Uh,
exists.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last one it predicted, which I'm here for, it says 2026 will be the year Africa stops being framed as emerging, but will become a major global player in events, African led teams, stories, production, not parachuted narratives. And obviously, like the UCI World Championships in Rwanda and stuff like that, playing a role in that. I don't think we're gonna. I think we're gonna see an upward swing in terms of this, in terms of what we're seeing from Africa. I mean, my wife works in the health space. She's been to several conferences the last couple of years with various health ministries throughout the continent, and just in the health space, they're saying we're tired of playing second fiddle, vaccines and those kind of things that need to be produced on the continent. We are going to have the biggest youth population by 2035, those kind of things. We have to have a standalone, viable continent, not a, as it says here, parachuted narrative. So I think we're going to continue seeing this
I,
from various countries in
I
Africa.
reckon ChatGPT is telling you what you want to hear, mate, as a preview from what
Of
Brene, our
course.
episode with
I
AI from Brene, because I was like, there's no way that ChatGPT tells me that.
No, no, of course, of course. I put a lot. I work in African sports, so it's got a lot of that information, and I picked up on that immediately. And
Yeah,
I'm biased towards it, so that's why
yeah,
it confirms my biases. So I'm here for it. But I
yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
believe in it.
Yeah, so I think trends we'll see. My trends that we're going to see is a push of the Middle East into sport and sport washing. So that's kind of why I said you should probably have said that lower down. I also
Hmm.
think we're going to start to see, and we're already starting to see this, a move away from super teams in like the NBA and cycling and those sort of things. I think we're going to start to see, we had this era of super teams where everyone wanted to uh, come to the best team and be part of it and win. And then now I think what we're going to see is we're going to see that split back up, because there's always an incentive, right? And there's going to be an incentive for the second best rider to go to another team and become their leader. And then similarly in the NBA and that sort of stuff, I think people are going to get sick of it. You always have this, you'll always have the pendulum swinging. And I just think we're going to start to see it swinging away from super teams.
Interesting. Wow. I don't know what to think of that. I mean, you have this ebb and flow where you have certain teams
Yeah.
dominant for a generation or so, and that changes. Yeah, interesting. Let's see how that goes. I can't wait to record in a year's time to
Yeah, I'm
see how
excited. I'm
far
excited.
off we
Again, the
are.
time capsule is cool. The time capsule is very cool.
Yeah,
Hopefully, listeners are
yeah.
enjoying this as much as we are. All right, mate. Dream podcast guest. Last year, you said Ruben Amorim, and I said Kylian Jornet. We didn't get either of those. But anyway, who's your dream podcast guest? You can't say the same ones, right? So we're not going to say the same ones. I mean, Kylian is still on our list. I'm sure we both love Kylian. But who else?
Yeah, Ruben Amorim's still in the job as Manchester United manager. It'll be interesting to see in a year's time from now if he's still in that job. My dream guest is boring. I thought Tadej Pogacar would be really interesting for us to talk to. I think we would get so much out of him if he was to appear on a podcast like ours.
I mean, I've heard him on a podcast with Peter Attia. It's pretty good.
Peter,
Pretty good
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
very good on there. Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, I'd probably, to be honest, instead of him, I'd probably prefer one of his sort of staff members, Jeroen Svart. I think he'd be really cool. I've spoken to him quite a bit in my, privately offline, and smart guy. So I don't think we're going to get him on the podcast, but I think he'd be a good podcast guest, and I think he'd have some interesting insights. But I feel like he'd have to be, because he's for the cycling team, he'd have to be pretty buttoned up PR wise. So I'm not sure you'd get the best out of him on a podcast versus
Yeah.
over a coffee. So yeah, that's an interesting one. Mine is actually a guy called Laurent Muley. So Laurent is
Who's that?
he coaches the Dutch sprint team, the relays, 400 meters, and Femke Bol. And I've heard him on other podcasts, and the way he's developed athletes, the way he thinks about the relays, all that sort of stuff is a really interesting take. He's a very good coach. He's worked with Switzerland before, developed a lot of their athletes. I think this is a guy, when you think about how do we know someone's a good coach, him. He's very clear. He has good athletes, but he also makes average athletes overperform, or good athletes overperform their talent. The Dutch, the Swiss have been disproportionately successful in things like the relays for a long time, and in their sort of second level of like the second best 400 meter runners, etc., often overperformed. So that says to me it's a coaching effect rather than just pure talent. So he's a really interesting guy. So yeah, that's my answer for this year.
Go get him. Go get him for us. He seems more realistic than Tadej Pogacar.
Yeah, every year
Okay, we're getting.
I make a relatively realistic one, and you make a ridiculous one, so you don't have to do your bloody work. My other one that I thought
I didn't
of.
see Kylian Jornet come on. I didn't see him come on. I can get Tadej on, man. Come on, I'll get Tadej on. I could
Do you
probably.
want
I'll
to?
text Jaroon. See if
Do,
Jaroon will come on. He can.
no,
He
no,
can
no.
inject
You're
me.
not doing your own. How about this? Do you want to have a competition? If we can get, if you can get Poggy, I'll try and get Killian.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good to
What are
me.
we betting on
Love
this? Because
it.
I reckon
Love it.
I reckon I'm going to get Killian, and you're not going to get Poggy. So what are we making a bet on this for?
I don't know. It's just a friendly bet. Nothing in it.
Okay. Okay.
I'll do an episode shirtless. You have to do an episode shirtless if you lose.
Yeah. Oh, no worries, mate. If you get Poggy, I'll bloody be shirtless for Poggy. No issues.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Okay, that wraps up our 2025 review and 2026 wrapped. Like, let's wrap this up quickly with Seen on Social. I sent you something which I think I actually misunderstood. I saw this reel where someone built a dream Ironman team of goats in each discipline, swim, bike, run. They had Michael Phelps in there, Tadej Pogacar, and Eliud Kipchoge. I thought they were building a team relay, but I think what they were saying was if you had each of those race against each other, each of those goats, like Michael Phelps being a swimming goat, Tadej Pogacar being a cycling one, and Eliud Kipchoge being a running one, who you would see win in that. I'm
So,
guessing maybe Tadej would win because of how much time he could make up on the bike.
yeah. So we actually got sent. This is a DM probably 3, 4, 5 months ago by our CMO. Spencer Lauderbeck, mate. So it speaks to like you not remembering that. Yeah, I reckon Tadej wins this one because his cycling is going to be that much better. He can just make up so much time. He'd also be pretty fit and a lot of cyclists to run in the off season. I actually think Mathieu Van der Poel wins this, if I'm honest. But that's a different discussion, and his more about his running
Why?
ability because he runs
Okay.
and he
Okay.
runs well.
Okay.
He's
Yeah.
run
Yeah.
good half
Yeah.
marathons and stuff. So like, yeah, I reckon he's a good chance, mate. I don't know if Tadej runs. I also think that Mathieu strikes me as a guy who might be a better swimmer. I don't know why. Just looks like it. I have no reason. I have no reason to believe that. Yeah, I reckon. So yeah. Yeah. Let's leave that at that, mate. Let's get to the doctor's office.
TJ Watt is in the doctor's office. Who is TJ Watt? What is TJ?
Yeah, well, turned down for what? So TJ is younger brother of older brother JJ Watt, who used to have that song played for him when he played for the Houston Texans. TJ plays for my team, Pittsburgh Steelers. He's easily their best player at the moment.
This
He
is
is
an
out.
NFL football for people who don't know.
Correct. He is out injured, and he is out because he has a collapsed lung. And as soon as this happened, they said he had a problem with his lungs or something, or chest discomfort. I was like, this guy's got a pneumothorax, and I knew exactly what had happened. So a pneumothorax is when your lung collapses, right? So your lungs are attached or stuck to the inside of your chest wall, and if you get air between them, you get what's called a pneumothorax. And the problem is you can end up with air pressure differences, and you can end up with that pneumothorax growing and that lung collapsing more and more and more, and it can be a problem, right? It doesn't always happen, and there's different things that can get in there. It can be blood, it can be air, whatever. Don't have to get into it. And if it's blood, it's called a hemothorax and a pneumothorax. But this happened after he got some dry needling, and I knew this is what had happened. What people don't know is that the way your lungs sit, they actually sit right up here, right underneath your upper traps. And often people get a tight upper trap and they get needles into the upper trap. And if you go through too much through that muscle, you eventually hit the
I
lung.
get that.
Yeah. And you
Yeah,
get,
I get that feeling.
yeah. So, but if you put dry needles in it, you have a chance of hitting that lung and then collapsing it.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
it's not well, sorry, it's not. It is lesser known. Everyone kind of knows it and thinks about it, but no one really thinks about it when they're sticking needles in that part. So, I pretty much picked this straight away as soon as it happens. Like this guy's had dry needling and he's hit his lung there, and it turns out to be true. So,
Oh, well
uh,
done.
yeah, not great for TJ. So, best of luck recovering, TJ.
What are we watching this weekend? I mentioned that I've been going to some live games. Went to rugby last week. I went to cricket a couple of days ago. Super cool to watch live events. And yeah, I wish I had more of that. Hopefully, I have some more cricket coming up towards the end of the year as the SAT 20 kicks off in South Africa. But I won't be watching any sport this weekend. I am off to the Kruger National Park to safari. So I will be watching animals. What are you watching?
I mean, if the test match is still on, if Australia hasn't won it by then I'll be watching a bit of that. I see
The Ashes.
yeah, they're in an okay position overnight. The British commentators were speaking as though they'd won the test match already, even though it's, they haven't even bowled Australia out yet. So let's see how that goes. Other than that, maybe a bit of rugby, but yeah, not a lot at the moment. So yeah, quiet weeks of sporting for us, I guess.
Well, let's leave it at that. What a big episode. I was looking forward to this one. That was fun. Fun to look back. And I can't wait, as I said earlier, to record this in a year's time and see how wrong we were again. Mostly
Yeah.
you.
Well, yeah, I think I won that one, mate. But anyway, happy holidays and Merry Christmas and whatever else you celebrate to all listeners. So thanks again for being part of our, the podcast. We're coming up on 2 years. It'll be 2 years, kind of. I don't know how long. I think it's March. It'll be 2 years. So that's a pretty big milestone for us. So we appreciate you. We've obviously grown a lot. Got lots of sponsors on board, etc. So we do appreciate you all and your interactions with us and being part of the community. So if you want to keep doing that, yes, look, we're on YouTube, although that won't be the case for a little while. But yeah, follow us on Players, join our Strava group, follow us on Instagram, interact with us, like things, comment, share. We really appreciate it all. It really does help us, and it's been a great source of joy and inspiration for us this year in seeing the podcast grow and all that sort of stuff. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and wishing them a great festive season.
I literally couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here. Mates, we'll catch you on the next one.
Well, you'll catch me, mate. I don't know when we'll catch you again. So yeah, best of luck again, mate.
No, I will be on the next few. We've banked it already. We've recorded it. I am on the next few episodes.
Yeah. Alrighty, mate. Take care.